Hey, this is Tiger. Welcome to my stream. AJ is already asleep, so there will be no good evening from her. But you're gonna have to get your good evening from me. As always, please read the disclaimer. We are talking about playing a computer game, a train simulator, so leave the real trains and railway installations alone. What we are going to do today is do some low impact train driving on Stuttgart Heilbronn. That I set the marker no Acura 94 more and City Radar takes 2 to tango, but a threesome to beat them. Alright. That is something that you should keep in mind, guys. Juniper, today I'm here, so happy to see you back on the chat, guys. Been a rough week for me, very busy, but I made it for tonight's stream. El furo adicto arenfe, hi. The very addicted to the Spanish train operating company Renfe. So happy to have you on the stream. Even though we are not looking at Spanish trains, but at German trains after the American trains that we had last week. Yeah, let me put my disclaimer up. Of course, I got as an ambassador many DLC keys for free from Lauffen Games. And we will see what the latest patch actually did to Stuttgart. And first of all, I want to run a service that was a bit annoying to run because the scoring system did not really work on the Wittenberger Kopf. Just let me find some Stuttgart to Hamburg song. Maybe this is not one. Well, whatever. Let's book a timetable service on the Wittenberger Kopf. It is still so that you cannot find the 483 in this setup, but you have to pick it up as a subversion of the 463, the Karlsruher Kopf. Stuttgart zu Homburg an der Saar. Maybe it is that one from Stuttgart to Heilbronn. Let's try this one with custom weather in January, with clear, a little bit of fog, no snow. We have actually snow in real life a lot, and wind. How does one possibly get to level 2642? Well, you drive a lot and then you actually take your profile with you, and thanks to Train Simulator driver Paul from Australia, I managed actually to get my my log files from the Epic Game Store version to the Steam version. And then it levels up, and if you're driving one service or two after a long day at work to wind down, then after a while you get a lot of points. If you really want to grind it, then there are ways to do this that I stumbled over, but obviously there is no point, since there is no point. Very nice shorts, Cecilia. I'm very happy that you like them. It is, I'm still, it is very interesting still for me to see whether this makes sense or not. I've made a batch of 4 of them. 2 of them are already on, plus this signal system one. And 2 more for the HL system and the KS system are recorded and will be released soon. Watch streak reached. CDRA is currently on a 10 stream streak. Yeah. Let's make them 100. Aqua, I like them too so far, says Aqua 94. Yeah. And I have the presentation for maybe 5-ish more videos, and then I have to do more presentation stuff. It is actually what is really the hardest bit about this is to be finished before the 3-minute timer clicks in. Is that the 140s cap? No, it is the cap for the Wittenberger Steuerwagen. The the driving trailer. We have probably a 111 at the other end of the train. Let's just check. But most probably it's a 111S. Because the 111 can do the Zeitmultiplexe Wendezugsteuerung. That is hopefully activated. ZVS, yes, we're running ZVS, not on conventional push-pull, and without that we would probably not be able to use the Z-Steller here in our Steuerung. Let's open the doors in the weird way. Yeah, it is the driving trailer. The one between the Karlsruher Kopf and the Intercity driving trailer. We still have the lights to set. Here are our headlights. Here's our SIFA. And there is the PCB down there. In real life, they would probably close the curtains. We'll leave them open. We have nothing to hide. Unlock the brakes. Let's see that the dynamic brake is coupled properly. Thing is, we always have a bit of a problem starting this train. If we just release the brakes before starting, then you have sometimes the problem that the tap changer will count towards the maximum, but you're not drawing any power. Let's close the doors. We're nothing to hide. Speak for yourself, he says. Yeah. He's doing 260 in a 60. It is way too modern, yeah, that is true. With that pantograph, the scissor style pantograph, right? Okay. Let's see if we can draw any power. Yes. We're drawing power. I already go into the Z-Steller.
Ludwigsburg, Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Kennlicht allows us to pass this signal. We cannot really see the exit signal yet. Oh, that's a bit of fog that I put in here on my not dynamic weather. Okay. We got a proceed signal. Proceed with 40. God, I'm not used to the announcements. Yes, the announcements, well, they are still nice. No snow. No. But in real life, there is no. Best DB passenger loco in your opinion? One in the game. Moment I have to make sure that I don't overdo it because I'm stuck in the run up here. Obviously the 380. Well, for me it's obviously the 101 expert. In the game. And I'm looking totally forward to more and more expert locomotives. Question is how long actually here the anschließende Weichenbereich ist. game, I think, will already clock us to 100. Because we are way out of the track limit 40. We already passed the LF 7 for the 100. Since we do not really have a timetable, we don't know where the Weichenbereich ends here. Whether we are technically out of the Weichenbereich already on a... I say the 120. Alright, we don't have that one in the game yet. Since it's the closest you can get to an Euro Sprinter without having to hear Do Re Mi Fa Sol every time you brake and start moving. Alright. Well, you guys know me. For me, it's always the variety that makes the thing. And we have not passed another signal yet. I'm not entirely sure whether we have left the Weichenbereich. And I will tell you why I'm not entirely sure about this. I think it is more or less safe to go to 60, but if this is a service of the kind that I encountered sometime during the week, then we will be routed across a switch very, very late in our start. And we won't get a warning for that. Didn't say the VR1 you can go Streckengeschwindigkeit after next HP. Yes. But so far we have not reached the next main signal, have we? It announced maximum authorized speed at the next main signal. But the thing with the anschließende Weichenbereich at the exit signal, at the starter signal, is always a bit tricky. Because you need to know where it ends, and typically you have a marker in your timetable, this yen sign. If you don't have an isolated set as 3 or the signal here is not for us. Neither is there one on the right. And we have still not encountered a new main signal ever since we left the platform. And have we accelerated to Streckengeschwindigkeit line speed 100, then we would probably get a quite jerky movement to the right here. This is a 60 limit switch. Now we get a distance signal announcing the next main signal. So if this is actually the idea that we cannot go faster than 40, 50 or 60, whatever the timetable tells us to that starter signal, where we got HP2. And I guess the Weichenbereich did not end before this switch here. Now we're probably out. Now we can probably accelerate to 100 line speed. Even before we get to the next signal. Because the trap that we can fall into, the 60 switch, we have already passed now. But I'd really, here's the next main signal. Line speed increases to 110. next main signal. But it is really a long stretch between the signal at the end of the platform and the next main signal somewhere between Stuttgart Nord and Feuerbach. And Akura says that's what Streckenkenntnis is for. Or the Ebula. Know your switches. Correct. And know how long the Weichenbereich is. It's actually a very volatile and crucial information to know for how long the speed limit is valid. That is on the signal. This interlocking here is so beautifully implemented in the game. So did I miss the 140 sign? Because we are already in a part. Yes, somehow I missed it, the 140 sign. Probably because I was admiring the junction so much. Passing Kornwestheim at speed. And now that we are at speed, you already have to slow down for Ludwigsburg almost. Here a limit to 110 was announced with the signal. This is sometimes not so easy to see and easy to miss. This is the area where you come up from the right with your freight trains when you're starting at the yard. Now we should be to 11. Kennlicht allows us to pass this bit here. So, I doubt that this is what you would do in real life. What I release the brakes, the train brakes, and hold the train exclusively with the local brake, so that we can start the train without having to wait for 20 seconds before the loco can pull some power.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug SE nach Homburg-Saar Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise.
So driving with the Zugkraftsteuerung, with the traction effort selector, the set lever, is actually much more convenient than driving with up and down. Bietigheim-Bissingen. Well, now I overdid it a bit. And anticipated the increase to 120. And Juniper says when you release all the brakes at the platform, it makes a lot of noise for the passengers standing outside. Oh yeah, that's true. Also. And you should probably hold your train in place. AJ Black subscribed to tier 1. You've been subscribed for 29 months. AJ, so nice. Let's see you in the chat, and thank you for the subscription. Slow down to 110. So we're not stopping at Asperg, and we're not stopping at Tamm. We're rolling through to Bietigheim-Bissingen. What we can confirm actually is that the scoring issue has been fixed. As long as you're not going too fast and have your safety systems turned on, you get the full 65 points. I hope they can fix this for the red Vectron as well. so that you can run it properly in the Netherlands. And in Germany as well, obviously. Signals are quite hard to read at the moment. Now we have to slow down to 80. Sometimes you get a signal indication for the slowdown to 80. Sometimes it is only the track speed indication. Here apparently we only got the track speed. Here now the signal one on top of it, already for the exit signal. Here the line speed. Repeater. .500 hertz. Magnet. That has no impact since the signal is not red. Our speeding had the nice effect that we made up some time.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug SE nach Homburg Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen
So we're getting started with 80, with 80 limit, because we're going across the switch again. Acura. Flashing 85 was what restriction? Don't play German rules so much. So anything with obere Zugart, but what restrictions? Obere Zugart, that means you have to be at 80 or lower within 23 seconds, I think. If you don't make it below the 85, then you will get the Zwangsbremsung. So the system itself reacts to 85 and higher, but as a margin of error, you must be 80 or lower with 1000 hertz on. If you're actually approaching a red signal, then you have to be at 60 or lower when you hit the 500 hertz and have to slow down to 40 within 153 meters. So what was the limit here? 120. We're also stopping at Besigheim. slow down to 100 again. No 1000 hertz for the 100. But we have to be prepared for GTA. Not GTA, for GPA. Geschwindigkeitsprüfabschnitte. Not here though. Here was the LF7 for the 100. And now we're sliding into Besigheim. Across the bridge. Platform is to the left.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug SE nach Homburg-Saar Hauptbahnhof. Wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Nächste Station.
Walheim in Württemberg is already the next station. Go back to a twin track line. No distinction between S-Bahn and Regionalbahn anymore. Zug nach Hamburger Hauptbahnhof. Is this an ICE? No, not Hamburg. Homburg an der Saar is our destination. H9burg. I don't think that I've ever been at Homburg an der Saar. A couple of years ago, they had a football club there that played quite high level at the time. Homburg an der Saar. I'm not confusing things here.
Sehr geehrte Reisende, herzlich willkommen im Zug S.
So what year are we running? I think around the year 2000 was the idea. Kirchheim am Neckar. We already had an increase in line speed. To 110. Now to 130. But we have to stop at Kirchheim am Neckar, so yeah, accelerating does not make that much sense. Nakura said I missed it before Wittenberger Kopf and Baureihe 620. I do look like sisters from another mother. Yeah, that is true. They have the same boxy look and feel to the cab. Hey, it's RTU. So nice to have you on the chat. Hello there to you too. How are things going at the Simrail front? So now I am a bit far off my mark because we got them release dates for January. Oh yeah. It is nice to hear for Simrail. Juniper's Kirchheim Neckar is the most generic German name ever. Well, that I cannot challenge that. On the 13th, we have Xbox release for SimRail. Didn't even know that that was up. Thursday, 22nd of January, game update, and Sunday, 25th of January, the CD 163 release. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Yep, and Acura says very correctly, mate, because they came in service around a similar time, the 628 and the Wittenberger. Now we're getting a temporary speed restriction to 70. There are so many Kirchheims. Well, and Sunday release is not a normal thing. No, not at all. $110 behind the tunnels. But first we have to get through the temporary speed restriction. Well, I have to say I enjoy driving this Wittenberger Kopf a lot. So here we got the temporary speed restriction in the tunnel. What we still don't have for the temporary speed restrictions in Germany are the lamps at the LF1 sign. They were promised, but we did not get them. Probably not ASRTU. He says he does not know if I will be able to buy, download, study the CD 163 and then stream in like 2 hours. Well, I definitely can buy and download it. The hard part will be the studying. Or it will be just a very, very pure unboxing stream for it. Isn't there a mod that to get the lamps? I don't know. I usually don't use mods that much. Because I agree with Paul, the train simulator driver, that you should actually show the game as is to point out stuff that does not work. So that everybody can actually enjoy the game the way that we are playing it. And it shouldn't be so hard actually to fix those lamps. Lauffen am Neckar. Limit to 90. Shortly after. Hey Snakebiters. ASRTU wrote a long message. I have to wait until I got the train to a more or less secure stop before I read that. This weekend there have been some issues in SimRail due to technical issues. The API backend has been disabled until Monday. This will not affect multiplayer mode, but will impact services that rely on the API, such as online maps. I see. So not the game itself, but things that use the API. Here we are, Lauffen am Neckar.
Wir wünschen Ihnen eine
Snakebiter says, I barely trust myself with a train sim world 6 train yet. I'm not ready for sim rail yet. Oh. Pick it up at the next sale, maybe together with the DLCs in the bundle. This is definitely a game. You can have a lot of fun with. And Ace RTO says, yes, they did some database change on Friday that within other things added new loading screens with the release date of PD 163 and they had some issues with it, I see. CD Raider says, I'm curious about the controls. Simrail has notoriously terrible controls and 163 has a lot of levers. Well, for me playing with the keyboards, I don't think that the controls are so super bad. The Snakebiters, I do like the idea of it though, the more realistic the better. It also gets harder to drive though. Yep, in a way. In a way, it also gets easier if things are actually working the way they are supposed to work. And it gives you something to aim for, says Snakebiters. That's the spirit. And a sense of accomplishment when you drive. When you drive it. Yeah, actually a long Simrail service, if you manage to get through without getting things wrong, is actually something that you feel a sense of accomplishment. I definitely felt a sense of accomplishment when I finally got the two pendos working together. After the ETCS bug fix there. And I guess RTO maintains it is easier sometimes because they have the paper timetable and I can just look at all the stops. True. Non-TSR speed limits and compare it to the hectometer board. If you can actually read those Polish timetables and know what the figures are good for, then it is definitely so. And I enjoy that a lot, that you can look at this timetable. Without Bali's red arrows, says CD Raider. Yeah. Yes, and Ace RTU says totally correct that if we had a working Ebula in Train Sim World, it would be definitely easier. on the German routes. Wouldn't be so complex with the anschließende Weichenbereich, because you can just see it in the Ebula where it ends. But that means that someone at DTG actually has to understand how the timetables work, or just copy them properly. How realistic are the modded timetables? Can I use a real one with Trains from World 6? Or a way I can print out the ones in game for HUDless driving? And this is what HUD is for, as a CD radar, yeah. But the HUD, it takes away a lot of immersion, in my opinion. Maybe not the energy saving suggestions, yeah, true. But you can actually switch them off in the real Ebula, I think. And I think by this Tiger-wise, I'll be printing out some of the slides from your video about the London Underground, so hopefully it works out well on those. Hopefully.
Nächste Station Heilbronn Hauptbahnhof. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Look how nice it looks that this car is driving up to the crossing gate. I always think that at this point here. Coming out of a ditch and stopping in front of the crossing gate. This is done really nicely here. What is the limit, by the way? 130. Unsecure rail crossings are trending. I've always waited for this guy at the rail crossings to wave a red lamp for a change in SimRail. What safety systems there are on the older London Underground trains? The trip copion, yeah. That's it mostly. The OSP1 signal aspect, that would be the orange version on this position light signal in front of a technically secured level crossing, right? Yeah, I've always loved the London Underground trains too. The orange version, yeah. The London Underground is so fun to drive. Or to drive, to ride on, actually. To drive I can't say, because obviously I've never done that. London Underground is so fast and loud and narrow and... And they could also be dark, the OSP signals. Now we're passing the yard at Heilbronn. Still have 1.7 kilometers to run. It's great to have an active chat. Well, you should not do that when driving the train in real life because it distracts you a bit, like the two island routes. It only applies. Sublines are slow too. Yeah, that is true. The deep level tubes. So now I have to pay attention a bit. VR0. I'm already down to 60 in preparation for the 500 Hertz limit. They have a weird second 1000 Hertz magnet here at Heilbronn in the implementation. I doubt that this is actually how it is supposed to be. But not on this track that we are landing at. The Glasgow tube. Oh yeah, that would always be a nice thing. But I doubt that we will be getting subway lines in Trains from World soon. They seem to be under the impression that people don't want tunnels. What's a CD radar? And he says, well, DTG can't do proper tunnel lighting. Well, that is a thing with the light baking. They always say it takes up so many resources and everything, and it can take forever if it does not work out properly. I don't know. I've never tried this. I have no experience and no expertise for that. So maybe it is an excuse if they say people don't want it. All right. So you can get a platinum medal on the Wittenberger Kopf runs now, even if you are dawdling around or go across the speed limit line. There are a couple more things that I wanted to actually investigate. Yes, Bible thump. NYMN corn. This I actually don't understand. One thing on the Stuttgart Heilbronn line that was itching me a lot is that if you try to drive a non-revenue service, so an empty train, empty stock move, they actually have you shunt your way along the whole line from Stuttgart to Heilbronn. Let's see if that is still the case. The 423, 3 different versions. But I would always recommend taking the Frankfurt S-Bahn one because the other one have brakes that just don't work. Empty depot move. 26 minutes. I think that is the one that I was right to run. Now let's go into March. I always want a bit of wind. Let's see. Just testing, obviously you can't see emotes. No, we can't. Ah, I see. no stroke. Snakebiters, I know on the underground video you said we can't get hold of the rulebook. That's still the case. However, we can now at least get the Elizabeth line rulebook. Yes, that one I actually downloaded when I was looking for the rulebook for the London Underground. It's on the Transport for London site. It has a few modules to it. I actually downloaded it in case that they will remove it from being downloadable. But, well, that's the rules for the Elizabeth line. Let's see, well, if we get them, then we will get to those rules. I tried to find out if we can actually draw something from those rules, but you still can't know it for sure. That's probably as close as we will get to the actual rule book. In Lizzie line would be great. So many safety systems on one line is amazing. We have AI purple trains in the game. Okay, let's see what this service here is trying is getting us to do. Reverser, forward, safety systems. This one has no LZB, unlike the other 423 versions. The one from Munich especially. The one from Frankfurt S-Bahn does not. It also comes with the marker lights on. But the good thing is it has working brakes. And now, look at this. We are supposed to go to Bietigheim-Bissingen, 19 kilometers. And what do they start us with? An SH1. And we know... no LZB, yeah, on this train. The problem is, we can't go faster than 25, maximum 40. Have to push the Befehl 40 button. And okay, we are an empty coach move. We are a non-revenue service. We are a dead-heading train, or whatever you want to call it. But we are not necessarily a shunting movement for that. So why don't we get a proper signal? Do they really expect us to shunt with 25 kilometers or 40 at best? If they can assure that the switches are set and everything? All the way to Bietigheim-Bissingen? And Snakebiter says, people in the UK did a Freedom of Info Act on the Underground rulebook where even those were denied. Yes, I remember stumbling across the same things when I prepared that video. Now the question is, can we get the Elizabeth line in one of the train sims? At some point in time, most probably. With so many third-party developers active, the chances of getting anything in the game has grown completely. So, next signal, again, SH1 on HP0. We can pass it, but we are still a shunting service. And as a shunting service, we are limited to 25 unless the Weichenwärter can assure us that our path is set and clear, then we can go 40. And we need more in the games as Snakebiters anyway. I think we only have the Bakerloo line at the moment, yes. And they got a lot of flame apparently for the Bakerloo line. What is totally not understandable in my opinion, because I find the Bakerloo line is an amazing line. Core route of trains in the world. But apparently people are not so super keen on it. And so, what are we running up to yet now? A red signal without anything. Now we have a red signal and underneath a distance signal head with a white light on. What is, in my opinion, not a correct way of setting signals. If you want to use the Kennlicht on the main signal, then the red lamp should be off, can be on, but then you should have the Kennlicht, the white light on the main signal. Now we have the Kennlicht on the distance signal head, and the rules say if the main signal is red, then the distance signal head at the same post should be just dark. Ayesatio, by the way, do you know how is LZB in Germany? Because I know one Spanish driver and he says that the Spanish LZB implementation is very unstable. Well, I would not know because I've never come close to driving a train under LZB, but I don't think that you hear them complain a lot. And Snakebite, Germany does look like a nice country to drive through. It has a lot of very nice areas to drive through. It is very different, the north from the middle to the south and back again. So definitely has a lot to offer. Connection loss. Yeah, I guess connection loss you can actually get. In Accuras, every signal stands for itself, even on one mast. And Snakebite is getting more and more tempted, yeah. And ISRTU, I mean, he says he's happy that this year the only HSL, the high-speed line in Spain with LZB is getting ETCS level 2. Well, the Spanish implementation of LZB has always been a special thing in itself. So, what do we do with our signal now? Can we pass the signal? Do we have to ask the signaler? And the signaler says, proceed as signals indicate. Yeah, the signal indicates we have to stop. We have a marker light on the distance signal head. What is this signal actually showing us? And the signal thinks it shows us SH1. What would be the aspect on a little protection shunting signal, the one with the white lamps diagonally. If this is SH1, then we can pass the signal now. Let's see if we can get, or what we will get. Do we have to use our Befehl 40 here? No. No active 2000 Hertz. But it wanted us to hit the Wachsamkeitstaste. It was an active 1000 Hertz. For whatever. Well, this is definitely a thing that is not correct. The empty coach moves with those signals does not work. It is a train-sim bug, yeah. And CD Radar says how funny it is that the ICEL is pulled by a GD logo. And Acura says the ECEL is a shame in his humble opinion. As RTO says in Madrid Station, there's an old 90s big computer that handles and controls LZB. Yeah, that is the thing. I mean, LZB is from the very first days of computerized safety systems in the 70s. And El Foro says, as someone from Spain, I can guarantee the ICAL is one of Talgo's best products. Okay, then. We will see. We will see. I'm looking forward to it. But we still don't have the Spanish locomotives, the Trakwa locomotives for the ECL, or the ECL, or are they certified at the moment by now? Considering the obvious fucking mess that the Talgo Avril is. Oh. Now I have to set the language counter up one step. El foro adicto a RNVS. SRTO. We went through this in the beginning. So, now an experiment about the Halbregelabstand. And I think I will do this in free roam. Let's stay with the custom weather in broad daylight so that we can see everything. And it has been said by the developers that between Stuttgart and Stuttgart Zuffenhausen, the Halbregelabstand has been established. And in a way, I think it has. The problem is the signals can't show the Kennlicht that is necessary for it. And see, I saw a comfort jet in Prague with 2 Vectrons on the way to Berlin. Maybe another helper for the ECE lame. Yeah, but why do you say that it is GD locos that are pulling the ECL? It's Vectrons, but did they not take specifically painted Vectrons for it? So. Köln, München, Frankfurt, Fulda. But I cannot spawn the 423. Okay, then I will take a different one. Then I will take the 425. They are all white. They are. After the white 101s, we now have the white Vectrons. So guys, let's try to test the Halbregelabstand. This train is going let's make it easy. Stuttgart Nord. And then we will just leave the train there and we drive one train after the other in the same direction and let's see what signals that we are getting. Forward safety systems are on. I think we need some lights on this train. We're getting an HP2 40 across the switch. The switch is here. Welcome to a new episode of Tiger Experiments. Yes. Oh, before we get into this, you guys know how the Halbregelabstand should actually work, right? I will show you in the presentation that I once made about it. Like this. No, this is much too. That is old PZB and Indusi stuff. Here we are. Typically, we have signals spaced in a regular braking distance of 1000 meters. So if you have a red signal, then the signal before that will still be green, but if the signals are actually spaced in the 1000-meter distance, then you will get the distance signal head showing you the VR0. The other signals before that will be green. That is just okay, but if a train is actually waiting at this red signal here, then the next signal will lock. This block will also be red. So if there is another train coming, now the blue one, then behind that train, that signal will also be red, and the black train that is coming will get the VR0 signal here. That means you can only have one train per 1000 kilometers, and that limits the capacity of the track. Wouldn't it be nice to actually put up signals in a shorter distance of 500 meters, for example, because then if there is congestion and we have a lot of traffic, then we can get a train on every 500 meters of tracks, provided the trains are not too long. And then the black train can actually go up to this signal before it gets the VR0 and has to stop here. The problem is that the 500 meters that this signal here provides for the red signal is too short. So the train cannot stop. 1000 kilometers, sorry, if I say 1000 kilometers, I'm always talking about 1000 meters or 1 kilometer, obviously. Thank you for pointing this out. The fact is, if we put up our signals too close, then the warning that comes from the yellow signal here, from the VR0 distance signal, does not help the driver a lot, even if we signify with the white additional light that the distance is shorter than the 1000 meters, because it is actually not possible for the driver to stop the train within the 500 meters, unless we are in a context with very, very slow speeds. So this cannot work. What can we do instead? We put the yellow VR0 signal that reminds the driver that they have to slow down one signal further ahead. Then we have our full 1000 meter distance again, and the driver can pass the signal and start slowing down one signal earlier. The problem is there is still a signal in between, and how do we get that signal out of the way? We cannot have a person standing there always putting a sack over the signal or putting an X on it. We use the Kennlicht. Then we can actually switch it, because the Kennlicht, the little white light on the main signal, tells the driver that this signal has been switched off deliberately by the dispatcher, and then this signal does not count as a main signal anymore. And then we can put the yellow light here, mark it with a white additional light, and then this one is a repeater. Then the distance signal is here, 1000 meter distance to the red light, and the signal that looks like a distance signal is only a distance signal repeater, and then everything works properly. And if the trains go on and the blue one gets ahead one block, then the whole contraption moves on one more signal, and then the Kennlicht is here at the signal that was red, and the VR0 is at the signal that had the Kennlicht before. And in every sequence of Halbregelabstand, the first signal that is spaced in a distance of 500 meters after the last normally spaced main signal can never show a red, because this signal cannot be announced properly in a distance of 1000 meters. This is why it is sometimes called a signal A. And you might remember that at the signal that we just stopped, it was called A with a little prime marker. So this makes already a lot of sense. This is the idea. What is obviously essential in this context is that those signals can show the Kennlicht, the marker light, on the main signal. For that, they need to have a little white lamp that can be switched off in this context. And I'm not spoiling too much. From what I have seen, the signals used on Stuttgart Heilbronn don't have a Kennlicht. So if you look at the signaling logic in the map, then you will see that this signal is supposed to show a Kennlicht, but it doesn't. And see the radar. If it would be a Balice telegram, would say, "Hello, I am not the main signal anymore. Do not worry, you may proceed." Also Balice red arrow. Good luck, have fun, bye. I will back says ISR here. Yeah, yes, exactly. This is what the signal would say if it was a Balice. So, we are limited by the HP2. What is probably, I don't know the timetable, but what is probably an A60, so that we can go 60 at this point. This is the signal that we just passed here. It is called, you can see, A prime. So that is most probably this A signal. That is the first signal that is based in a distance of 500 meters behind the preceding main signal. And as Artios, I'd imagine with such a cursed signal aspect, PCB would default back to 2000 hertz. Yeah, but it defaulted to 1000 hertz in the context that we just encountered. For no apparent reason why this signal should have a working 1000 hertz, an active 1000 hertz magnet. I can't explain this. For the train that we are driving at the moment, it is all of no import, because our track is clear. At the moment we should get green signals until we stop at Stuttgart Nord. I can. He can explain it. It is a bug. Here we get our VR0. And we are, you can see it from the counter, about 1000 meters from our stopping point. That means that makes sense. Now after about 500 meters, the next main signal. And what happens here? What did I want to do? The signal that we are approaching, what aspect does it show? It shows Kennlicht. Akura asks, in the last line, can a Vorsignal be a repeater in a greater distance than Regelabstand? That you would have explained to me this question. Typically, a repeater is in a shorter distance than Regelabstand and not a Vorsignal at this point. The nice thing is that the distance signal heads mounted to the main signal masts do not carry an NE2 distance signal board, so that it can actually switch between being a repeater and a distance signal depending on what the other signals around them show. So this signal here is supposed to show a Kennlicht. This is already our signal in the Halbregelabstand. That is 500 meters spaced from the signal where we have to stop at 500 meters of the signal where we got the VR0 at. So the distance signal head at this signal here, interesting, where did we end up here? Here, the distance signal, the lower part here, the two yellow lamps, is a repeater. This is correct, and it shows the additional light, not the Kennlicht, but the additional light. It is the same lamp, but it has two different functions as a signal. This is the additional lamp, das weiße Zusatzlicht, denoting this thing as a signal repeater. And the signal on top of it is dark because it should be switched off. The problem is this signal does not have a white lamp that it can show to show us that it has been switched off deliberately. And that means that because the signal is a main signal with a white, red, white mast sign, we have to stop in front of that signal and ask the dispatcher for a written order that we can pass it. The signal is meant to show a Kennlicht, but the wrong type of signal was used when the signal were actually put here in the landscape to create the route, because this signal head cannot show a Kennlicht. And this is true for all the signals that are used in this Halbregelabstand here. So the signal logic, as you can see in the 2D map, works, but the signal cannot show the light because it does not have a lamp. I'm not stopping here. I'm actually getting my 1000 Hertz repeated, what is correct for the VR0 repeater. I don't get the 2000 Hertz because the signal is switched off by Kennlicht, logic-wise. It's just a bit of a shot in the own foot that the signal unfortunately cannot show the Kennlicht. And I have to just imagine the Kennlicht, yes. This is always the best advice. Well, driver, if you can't see a green light, just imagine it and go. Otherwise, we will never get anywhere. Okay. I took a picture of that and posted it in one of the chats that we have for us ambassadors, and Lucas from DTG and TSG said, yep, that's correct for this signal, but on the other signals, the Kennlicht should actually show. And since then, I am actually looking for a signal that can show the Kennlicht. And I have not found one yet. So, our train stands here. We teleport back, not through the window, through the door, preferably. Stuttgart tief. DB Nets. Mystic, you'll be going nowhere. I would prefer to point my question out under the YouTube upload later. I might have the words then and can use the timestamps. Oh yeah, I will come back to that later. Jump through the window prompt is missing. Well, now the next train. We're just shooting trains along this line. Respawn last. And we will see if we find a signal that can actually do the Halbregelabstand properly. Get started. Choo-choo. Forward. Safety systems. Lights. And now this train is supposed to go behind the signal. This one here. I am a toot conductor. Is the Vico bug in the selection UI now fixed? It is not. You still have to find the Vico under the Kako. The Vico is a variant of the Kako in the UI. But what has been fixed was the scoring issue with the Vico. And that is a good thing. Because that actually killed the fun a bit. Didn't they say in the root launch article that it was fixed internally? I can't remember that they did. We just played Vico service. And there we had to pick it from the 463. Just as it was before. When you stop at the red signal, you see that just before the other train line overpass, you can see invisible overhead wires. Oh yeah, that is totally possible. But those are the things, well, can't have everything perfect. So VR0, I don't think actually that it needs the white light here in this context, because we have our 1000-meter distance. But that I could probably live with. But now we should get the Kennlicht at the next signal, shall we? And what are we running into? Let's check it out on the map, on the 2D map. It says it shows Kennlicht, what is logically totally correct. What does it show us? It shows us a dark signal with no Kennlicht, with no white lamp. It cannot show a Kennlicht signal. Also, the plate is a bit small for the number of the signal, but well, those are the things that I could live with. That the caption is a bit in the air. And now we are looking out for the overhead wires. Second 1000 hertz. And now he said invisible overhead wires. I did not see them, the invisible overhead wires. Maybe it was already before. Or it's coming still. Still have a bit to go. In the underpass, I see. Signal is directly in front of the underpass. It should be red. So much is for sure. And then we will check out the missing one. Didn't the song from the Beatles go something like Imagine all the candy? Imagine there's no Kennlicht. It wasn't the Beatles, it was John Lennon on his own, wasn't it? Okay. Complete. And in the underpass. Yeah, correct. Here the wires just stop. End in nowhere. Here they are glued at the ceiling, but this one is not connected with the other one. Don't know if that is actually something that can happen. Well, this one here is going into nowhere, this thread. Didn't the patch notes have fixes for tunnel lighting? Yes! Is this... Okay. Not the Stuttgart Hauptbahnhof tunnel lighting, I guess. Let's go on. Maybe we still find one signal that shows the proper aspect. Let's shoot the next train. Isn't there a website that simulates that station's behavior? Routenize. So now we have to find our signals again. Where were we here? This is the line, and this is the one for the opposite direction. And here is the signal that is now red because we passed it. We're getting an HP2, no problem. We can start the train. I see you are making Deutsche Bahn congestion simulation. Yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm just running one train after the other. We are doing congestion. And the idea of the Halbregelabstand is that in case of heavy traffic and congestions, you can put more trains into the same length of track. So is the Kennlicht used on LZB lines to tell drivers to ignore signals and use LZB? No, it is sometimes used for distance signals, but usually if you're running under LZB, the only signal that you actually have to pay attention to is the red HP0. It is maybe possible in some special situations that you can show the Kennlicht on a signal that shows HP 0. Then this might be relevant for LZB, but typically this should be not in the same universe. Both the release article and release date article affixed for this issue has been submitted, with affected players receiving a post-release update to rectify it about the Viku UI. I see. Well, maybe this is the next patch. At the moment we only have the small patch with the hot fixes. And maybe this was for the next one. So, now we have the VR0 on our A signal. You remember, this is the signal that cannot show a red light, because it cannot be properly announced. So what was this Zwangsbremsung for? Did I not properly acknowledge? I thought I did. Oh, but maybe this was because I released from the starting program and this was not was still active. And with the new 1000 Hz monitoring, we were limited to 40 again. That might make sense. So, again, same test. This signal here that we are approaching, it is a bit hard to see in all this model, is supposed to show Kennlicht. Again, the logic makes sense, the logic works. But, again, this signal head cannot show a Kennlicht, and it doesn't. It has a lot of things. It has the TS1, the Ersatzsignal lamp. It has even a thing that can show a route indicator or a ZS3. All is off. Now, correctly, the VR0 does not have the additional white lamp. No, other way around. Now it should have a white lamp, and it doesn't, because the next signal is 500 meters ahead. This is now... Well, we don't know what that is. It is not a distance signal because it doesn't have a distance signal board. Together with the main signal, it should be a distance signal even without the distance signal board. And should tell us that we have 1000 meters until we have to stop at the next signal. But actually we don't have 1000 meters. We only have 500 meters. No bitches meme accepted, it says no candy. Liderator, I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but I think I saw some dark signals with Kennlicht on the S-Bahn route, on the München route. Yes. A reduced braking distance sign. This is the white additional lamp. It has the same meaning as the reduced braking distance signs that we have in Polish signaling with the white arrows on the black board. For that we have this additional white light. In the KS system and in the HV system here, the HL system has this special distance signal board with the circle in the middle. This is for reduced brake distance. And CD Radar, you are right on the Munich lines. There are sometimes signals that are switched off with Kennlicht. Under LZB, you don't even need a Kennlicht to be allowed to ignore dark main signals. But the Kennlicht switching off is probably for trains that are not running under LZB. And then, depending on what train you are, you can ignore that signal out of two different reasons. So, next train. What did I tell you about International One not allowing events? Yes. You actually told me something about that. Congestion. So, where are we with our experiment? Here is a train sitting, waiting. This is probably our next signal that we have to stop at. Now we have to delete this train and use another one. This feels like your average KU1 Simrail test server ghost train event. Well, this is an honest-to-God experiment to find a signal that can actually show the Kennlicht in the Halbregelabstand. Maybe some of you guys can do it in the other direction, coming from Zuffenhausen towards Stuttgart tief. I've done it on the other direction as well. I have not found one. I guess Stuttgart Hauptbahnhof tief tunnel lighting wasn't part of the update. I don't think so. You always have those parts that glow like they are radioactive. So far, signals are fully green. SH1. We're approaching our VR0. Again with the white light denoting a reduced braking distance, unfortunately. It gives us 1000 Hertz, that is okay, but repeater light on the rectangle. Well, as long as it is the diagonal aspect, it does not make a difference. But now we got the VR0 only 500 meters before the red signal, look. So here is no Halbregelabstand. Here we had to stop within 500 meters. So we should have gotten the VR0 already on the signal before that. Last one we did not get Kennlicht because the VR0 was actually one signal too late. It started at the A1 signal. So the first Halbregelabstand signal. And the signal before that was still all green. And we should have gotten the VR0 already there. So this was just plain vanilla signaling with only 500 meters braking distance. That was wrong, yeah, in my opinion. You could argue that this is totally okay because the speeds are so slow in this area, but still it does not comply. Well, maybe before I start the train I should give myself a path. So when we are going out there, let's find our train and trace it backwards. It's easier probably. So this is where our train is sitting. Fortunately here is everything is so confusing. Here, this is our signal. Signal A strich. And this is the first Halbregelabstand signal that I said cannot show HP0 because it cannot be announced properly. And we will see what we get here if we drive up to this. So what was wrong? Everything, everywhere, all at once. So what do we get here? We just get a normal HP2 and a VR1 indicating that the next signal, next main signal is clear. Okay, let's see. And ASRTU says, yeah, the HL signal is similar to Polish signaling. If yes, I also guess that there are some kind of Soviet railway signalization standardization. There was some kind, yeah. This definitely had to do with the Soviet influence on the German Democratic Republic. Because many Soviet countries or formerly Soviet influenced Eastern countries share those aspects, yes. So the first signal that we reach here after about 500 meters gives us for the first time the VR0, and we only have 500 meters to go there. Ex-Soviet, please, yes. Many people ignore that Czechoslovakia does not exist anymore. Well, that is true. Well, I would not want to have the Soviet era back. But on the other hand, at the moment there are some things happening, or a lot of things happening, that we don't want to have back as soon as we got rid of them, I'm sure. So we cannot even see our train in front of us. The Soviet era train, yeah. I would not mind that. So our A signal can totally show a red light. It is so close to the next train that we can actually see it. And now let's see. Now we have only one signal between us and our starting position in Stuttgart tief. That is about 1 kilometer. Someone forgot a piece of B magnet in a weird position under this track here, look. How did that thing get in here? So the last train in the bug counter is overwhelmed. Yeah, well, don't get me wrong, I still am very happy that Dion of TSG implemented the Halbregelabstand. That is better than no Halbregelabstand at all. But still, it would be nice to tackle those problems that come with it at the moment. So where is our train? It is here. It is so confusing to not lose track of what track we are on at the moment. Is that one? Is it 914 or is it 036? Where's our train? I can't find my train anymore. Am I stupid? Here. So we are going to the left here. So is it that signal here at the end of the tunnel? S905? Probably. Since there are more than one level on top of each other, it is a bit difficult to see. Okay, now they are giving us the VR0 directly here and sending us with an HP2. Let's see if I got that correct. If you imagine you are in the east, you can pretend the Niedertalbahn is Sovietish kind of. Whew. Era-wise, yeah. But now did I forget to acknowledge my VR0? Probably. Probably. Niedertal. That is the thing, you have to pretend that you are in the east. No, it is the wrong way anyway. They're sending us out over there and I don't want that. So I will have to delete my traino. And I'm sitting in the tunnels. What a good thing that we can do the fast travel. Oh, a lot of passengers appeared all of a sudden. Where did you guys come from? Please let me through. Don't look at me like this. I don't want to take you anywhere. And why not the Mittenwaldbahn? Yeah, that is actually... Or the Mittenwaldbahn, is it also in the 80s? Was it not in the... Yeah, probably. Stop. Now I'm losing my focus a bit. Where is this line coming out? Here then, probably. "500 meters, that makes sense. Signaling makes sense in a way as well. All I know is in Simrail 80's route next to Katowice station, there's a big mural painting of a Polish Soviet official. Alright. I probably not recognize him. Okay, now I did that correctly here. And I did not pay that much attention to the scenery in the 80's route. I was much too busy driving the Tutoir. And look at the water sloshing around in the tender. So, the pathing seems correct. And we're approaching a red signal, so much is for sure. Mittenwaldbahn is in 89, so depending on the day there's a wall in Berlin, a party on the wall. Or technically speaking, no wall. True. But the Deutsche Reichsbahn still existed then, and it did not cease to exist just because the wall came down. So a valid point, I guess. And here is our red signal. So guys, what do we see? I did not find one signal that shows the Kennlicht for the Halbregelabstand. The Halbregelabstand seems to be implemented correctly in the second half of the route from Stuttgart Tief to Stuttgart Nord. At least in the 2D map you can see the proper logic with Kennlicht, but the signals can't show the Kennlicht. In the first half here, you just get a normal stop-and-go signaling with VR1 to HP0 with a spacing of 500 meters. That would be my verdict at the point. Let's see if something is happening there with the next patch. I doubt it. I don't think that I have seen significant changes to the signaling system once a route has been released. But well, Dion said that maybe he will implement the Halbregelabstand at Wiesbaden. I thought especially at Mainz-Kastell it should be implemented. Then, at any rate, it would make sense to use signals that can actually show a Kennlicht. This one here maybe can show a Kennlicht, right? Because it is a different kind. Yeah. Here, this one has a Kennlicht. That would be the little white light that can show the Kennlicht. But unfortunately, in this context, we don't get the Halbregelabstand signaling, but only the normal signaling with 500 meters in between. And why do they use Kennlicht and not VR0? The VR0 needs to be in a spacing of 1000 meters before the red signal, so that we always ensure a regular braking distance of 1000 meters. And the signal in between that is physically there after 500 meters needs to be moved out of the way, and this is done by the Kennlicht. And the VR0 that is at the main signal with the Kennlicht is then turned into a repeater. So it has its white light that is a weißes Zusatzlicht, not a Kennlicht. That is the logic. Yours 182. Hey, Mr. Tigerways, happy new year to you. Very nice to see you. And very nice to see you, and a happy new year to you. We're a bit at the end of our experiment with Halbregelabstand and what is happening on Stuttgart. So great that you still made it into the chat. Guys, I think that was today's experimental Be-Real stream. I have 2 more videos of the short variety for 2 more signaling systems already recorded. They will be released in the days to come. Please let me know your feedback as you did in the beginning of the stream, so that I know whether this is a line that we can pursue in addition to the Sunday evening streams, obviously. In February, I think a lot of things are looming in the DLC release front, Train Sim World-wise, and then we have at the end, last week of January, already release of Simrail, a new locomotive, the CD163 locomotive. Something is what we will actually tackle. What is happening in Stuttgart could be the title for a detective novel. I'm pretty sure there are a lot. I don't know if you guys know that, but those detective novels written with a certain context of a locality, like a city or a region, are extremely big in Germany. So every Tom, Dick and Harry is writing their detective novels for their hometown. And I'm super sure that there are Wabenkrimis for Stuttgart as well. Well, the missing Ken-like. Yes. That is really a good name, the missing Ken-like. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Have the greatest of times. Be nice to each other. Make the best of what we have. Over half there, and Acura gifted a tier 1 sub to ASR to you. Thank you so much, Acura, for your ongoing support. Now thieves got tired of stealing feeder copper cables. They now steal Ken-like lights. Thanks for the gift. Sub, he says. See you guys around. Take care. Bye bye.